Good morning, fellow journeyers. Wake up. Your soul needs you. Good morning. Rachel here. I'm coming to you live this morning to talk to you about something that I am dealing with right now in my own personal life. And that is negativity in the workplace. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. I am personally dealing with coworkers who like to gossip and talk about fellow coworkers, as well as talking about the drudgery of the day-to-day tasks we have to do at work, complaining about their own personal drama, what may be going on for them in their lives, as well as talking about the political climate or crime or bad weather or just different things that are going on in the world right now. These are things that can add a lot of stress to our lives and that I have become aware of that are adding a lot of stress and negativity to me personally. And so today I want to talk about some skills and some things that I am doing on a day-to-day basis that are helping me get through, helping me to deal with that daily stress and anxiety and worry and fear. When we think about how people deal with day-to-day stress, I think it's really relevant. A lot of us can relate to the fact that we hear coworkers say, hey, can't wait to get home and grab a beer. Or how many people do you know that go home and light up a joint in order to disconnect from their day, in order to de-stress and to escape for a little bit? These coping mechanisms can work, and they can work for a long time, sometimes for years. The problem with grasping for something outside of ourselves to make us feel better is that nothing changes. We remain the same. We feel the same, we do the same thing every day, and nothing changes. So what do we do to deal with day-to-day stress and anxiety and fear without grasping for something outside of ourselves to ease how we feel on the inside? I think Brian Scott, in his book Reality Revolution, words it really well when he talks about getting in touch with our inner feelings and what some of those cues and triggers can be that we can be aware of, that are letting us know that we are in a place of negativity, or we are feeling stress, or we are feeling anxiety. He says sometimes we are manipulated by responses to outside stimuli, which can endanger us. Endorphins and cortisol pulls us into pendulums, and identifying those natural responses to body stresses can help us gain control. When palms begin to sweat, hearts pound, and minds race, it's a signal that endorphins are at work. Controlling that reaction protects us in moments that would otherwise break what we're doing. And so I think, like I said, I think Brian Scott words it really well to help us remember what those physical triggers can be, that might give us a cue that our body is in stress, that we are absorbing negativity around us. So how do we steer clear from that negativity, and how do we not grasp for something outside of ourselves to give us temporary relief? I'm going to share with you some things that I am doing on a daily basis that are helping me in this journey. And one of those things is my morning routine. I choose to set my alarm for an hour before I have to get up in the morning. And that's not an hour before I have to leave the house in the morning. That is actually an hour before I have to start getting ready for work, before I have to start getting my son up and making sure he's getting ready and getting out the door on time. It's an hour just for myself, where I can kind of set the mood for the day, where I can get in touch with myself, with how I'm feeling, and with what I want to accomplish for the day. I love to journal, and I journal every morning. I often will just start my journaling with writing the day, the date, how I'm feeling, maybe how I slept. I don't try to overthink this. I don't try to think about what I'm going to journal about and making sure that it's profound or that it's insightful. A lot of times I just start writing. And often I find when I do this that I may end up filling a page or two or three or four with things that I didn't even think about to write about, with feelings that I'm having, maybe a dream I had the night before, or things that I'm dealing with, maybe personal issues, things with my family, or things with my coworkers, things I've heard about. And I just take that time to sit in the morning in the silence and do some journaling. I also choose to not turn the news on. I also choose to not scroll through social media. This is just an hour for myself where I get in touch with how I am feeling and I set the mood for the day. And I don't want any external stimulus interfering with that inner work, that internal dialogue that I am setting for the day so that I can have a good day ahead of me. We're bombarded with outside stimulus, be it coworkers that are talking negatively, be it people that are complaining, in the grocery line, be it the news, things we're hearing about COVID and this new Delta variant and Afghanistan and blah, blah, blah. And, we need to make sure that we are doing something on a daily basis to keep our own energy intact. And to not let all of these outside influences, we want to make sure we're not taking them in internally. We want to make sure that we are guarded against what we're choosing to take in and what we're choosing to not take in. One of the other things that I'm doing, and I just have really started doing this last week or two that seems to be really effective for me, is that I'm choosing the level of engagement that I want to become involved with everybody in my life. And I'm really focusing on it in my workplace right now. Not only am I becoming aware with my own internal feelings, but I am looking for cues from other people about how they may be feeling. And then in turn, how much I want to engage in that or not engage in that. And that might be that I'm walking down the hall at work and someone looks at me and rolls their eyes, or they sigh, or they mutter something under their breath. The old me would have gone up to them and said, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" Or I can completely relate. I feel that way too. This really sucks. Or they might, in passing, mention a person to me and a mistake they made. The old me might have engaged in that gossip and started talking about, yeah, I can't believe they did that, and look at all they're getting away with, and blah, blah, blah. So I've really been focusing and working on this last week or two, choosing if I want to even open up that can of worms per se. Do I even want to engage in that conversation? Because sometimes when we make the choice to just open up that door to that kind of dialogue, we've already made ourselves vulnerable to picking up other people's energy, to picking up that negative energy around us. And it's something we're not always conscious of when we do it, but when we do it a little by little all day long, by the end of the day, we might have a headache. We might be stressed out, we might be low on energy, we might be tired or exhausted, or we might start thinking about our own negativity in our life and start ruminating about things that are going on for us that we're not happy about. So I think that not only being in touch with our own triggers and seeing how we're feeling within ourselves, we need to be aware of the cues and the signs that others around us are giving to us about what's going on in their own personal lives. And then we can choose what level of engagement we want to get involved with, what kind of conversation we want to have with these people, how open we want to be to whatever they're going through. Another area that comes up to me, for me, is when I take breaks at work. We've got a couple picnic tables set up outside. I'm a smoker, so I'll go out and have a smoke break with my fellow coworkers. And I used to sit at the picnic table with all of the gossipers, with all of the other fellow coworkers I had, and we would sit out there together and smoke and talk about what's going on at work, the workload that we have, or the mistakes other people made, or can you believe so and so's wearing that? And I'm choosing to not do that anymore. I used to do it as a form of making friends, a form of fellowship, getting some good laughs in. And I just realized that type of conversation and engagement that I'm doing, be it even for like 10 or 15 minutes on a smoke break, is influencing the next hour or two of my workday. It's influencing the way that I feel when I go back out on the floor and I have to do my job. So aside from becoming completely antisocial, I am choosing to sit at the other picnic table, to physically separate myself a little bit from these people that are engaging in this negative conversations. And so I'm sitting there, I'm in the sunshine, I love the sun. I know that the vitamin D is a good mood enhancer, that our bodies absorb vitamin D from the sunshine, and that can help us to create a better mood for ourselves, to get us in a better place mentally. So I consciously sit in the sun. I enjoy my little bit of a break that I have from work. I may still talk a little bit to the people that are sitting next to me, but by physically separating myself and sitting at another table, I can choose the level of engagement, again, that I want to have with these people. Sometimes I can, sit and just look at my phone and pretend that I'm not hearing them. And so I'm not getting engaged with this negative talk that's going on all day at work. Something else that I like to do that's effective for me, and you may or may not have an opportunity to do this during your work day, but I am able to listen to like earbuds or headphones at work. And so during the day at work, when I'm out on the floor doing my job, I will tune into YouTube and I will listen to great inspirational talks. I will hop onto the subscriptions that I have and listen to things that I find that are interesting. I love Ralph Smart. He does a YouTube channel called Infinite Waters. And I really love to listen to him and his ideas and the opinions that he voices. Brian Scott is another great one. His YouTube channel is called The Reality Revolution, and he actually narrates a lot of books or excerpts from books. Often these are New Thought authors that have written these books in the late 1800s or early 1900s. And I think it's still really relevant today, and it validates where I'm at in my spiritual life and in my view of reality, especially to realize that other people had these same thoughts and these same views, be it even 50 years ago or 100 years ago. So that's something else I like to do. Sometimes I even will just put in, like I'll type in, 432 megahertz meditation music. The 432 megahertz is a frequency of music that lifts our moods. It helps repair our DNA. And a lot of times it is just soothing background music, and I will have that going on in one ear. So I'm still cognizant of what's going on around me, and I'm still working all day, but I'm also keeping my vibration at the level that I want to keep it at. Or classical music. I love classical music too, and I think classical music does the same thing for us. It's something we can kind of have going on in the background that we don't have to be consciously aware of and tuned into, but it's still there, and we are still picking up what we need to from it. We are still picking up the frequencies and keeping our energy level at a better level than maybe where we would have been when we first came back from break and started to let ourselves ruminate about COVID and the Delta variant, or Afghanistan, or a recent hurricane, things like that. Something else that I do in the evening, like I talked about before, a lot of people are grasping for something outside of themselves, grasping for a substance outside of themselves to ease how they feel internally. And I was no exception to that for years and years. That was my coping mechanism. I would come home at night, have a few drinks. That was my way of transitioning from a stressful work day and coming home. And to be honest, that worked for me for a lot of years until it did not work anymore. And like I mentioned earlier, when we take in something outside of ourselves to make ourselves feel better internally, we do not grow as souls. We do not grow as people. We remain the same, using the same coping mechanisms on a day-to-day basis, and nothing changes. So for me, right now, when I come home in the evening, in order to make that transition from work to home, I come in and I sit down and I just sit. I just sit and I relax for a few minutes. I may know that I have to empty the dishwasher, or that I need to start thinking about what's for dinner tonight, or that I need to do some picking up or some helping with homework. But I don't let myself walk in the door and continue that busybody work that I've been doing all day long at work. I don't let myself continue in that same motion of walking in the door and doing this and that and this and that. I let myself come in and I decompress for a little bit. I may sit and have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. I always change into what I call my comfies, my comfy clothes. So I come in and, I rip that bra off first thing when I walk in the door, and I put on some comfortable clothes. I make that transition from work to home. And then I let myself sit for just a little bit before I have to begin my evening routine or my evening obligations. Something else I like to do to get myself out of my own little world and the things I have going on in my own little world is that I love to learn new things. I love history. I love documentaries. I love learning about ancient cultures and outer space and the solar system. And so in the evening, I will often watch a documentary about an ancient culture, about the solar system, about an autobiography. Maybe I'll tune into something about an author that I love, or maybe even just somebody I didn't know anything about, and I'll listen to their life story, how they overcame their own things in their own lives. But I find that watching a documentary gets me out of my own little world. It makes me think about something that's bigger than myself. And it kind of puts things in perspective, because instead of living in my own little bubble where I'm just consumed with the day-to-day trials and tribulations of Rachel, I am thinking about something much bigger. And that puts me in a better place. It puts me in a better place of perception. So, like I said, I just wanted to share with you today some things that are working for me on a daily basis, that are helping me to not absorb other people's negative energy, helping me to steer clear from negative energy. Tools that are helping me to get in touch with my own physical triggers, how I may be feeling physically that might be cues to me, that I need to stop and decompress and think about what I'm doing. These are, mechanisms that I am using to remain sober and to decompress at the end of the day, or to begin my day in a good, positive way. Affirmations are another great tool that you can use, as well as gratitude. You can use those tools in that hour of silence that you have in the beginning of the morning, or at the end of the day, to remind yourself of what you do have going for you and what you are grateful for, and that you are blessed, and that these are the truths of who you are and how you're choosing to live every day. So, like I always say, take what resonates with you and disregard the rest. Remember, fellow journeyers, we are in this world, but we are not of this world. Peace and namaste.